local area. We had a fantastic communication strategy with the state. Everyone was linked arm in arm, and we know those emergency managers were out there talking to their communities about what the risks were. Post Hurricane Dorian, I've been articulating the need for high volume releases from Lake Okeechobee, basically due to a follow-on event. The Atlantic is very, very active right now with multiple depressions and potentials going forward. So my primary concern at this point is the next one coming. So I had thought, given earlier projections, that we would have high volume releases from Lake Okeechobee starting about a week after the storm passed. Some of those projections, as you know, have reduced, and it looks like it's going to be dry for about a week. And then the great support and the great activity by South Florida Water Management District. They're doing things in the northern Kissimmee and also moving water south of the lake to provide additional water south. And that right now allows us not to release or make any releases to the east and west. So this is going to be kind of the trend. The trend right now is not to do any releases east and west. While the majority of the water will be taken to the south. We will monitor those projections, we'll monitor the storms in the Atlantic, and we will update this on a weekly basis so that we can stay ahead of any potential problems going forward. The dike is in a great position. We have very low risk. We are in an excellent position and able to maneuver water, and the South Florida Water Management District is doing excellent. So once again, we're not planning any releases this week, and we'll readdress next week. And then I'll turn it over to the Executive Director.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Colonel. Drew Bartlett, Executive Director, South Florida Water Management District. As soon as we knew we were out of harm's way from Hurricane Dorian, me and my team sat down, looked at rainfall projections, looked at lake level projections, and then crafted a game plan to really start helping the Corps of Engineers manage lake levels. We looked north of the lake and we looked south of the lake. First, south of the lake. We are moving water to our storage areas south of the lake, and then we will move it from there into the water conservation areas and ultimately into Everglades National Park. At the moment, we're maximizing releases south of the lake at about 2,000 CFS. That's CFS. Anyway, 2,000 CFS. And then we are also holding water north of the lake, both in Lake Istapoga and Lake Kissimmee. So that less water gets in the lake. We're going to continue to do this, continue to meet daily, and look for opportunities to help manage lake levels so we can avoid harmful discharges into the future. I appreciate it. I'll turn it back to Colonel Kelly for questions.
Thank you. I'll take any questions now. Yes, sir.
The residents at Lakeport, what would you say to those residents who may be in fear of a breach in the dike?
Sure. So Lakeport is, as we looked at Dorian and as we looked at the worst case scenario that Dorian presented a couple days in, Lakeport was the most critical area. We have an ongoing construction project. And what would happen, what we envisioned at one of our structures there that was an ongoing construction project was what we call overwash. And that doesn't mean that the lake rises and flows over the top of the dike. That does not mean that there's a breach. What happens is the wind action kind of laps over or sloshes over the structure. It fills up kind of the construction pit, and then the water just eases out of that construction pit into kind of the low-lying areas. There was localized flooding, predominantly in farmland, but it did impact, or our projections impacted a few of the houses in that area. We were in constant communication more than one time a day with the emergency manager for that area. So we kept reassessing as time went on, and as the hurricane started shifting to the north, we lowered those risk projections and kept everybody in the loop. Yes, ma'am.
Between the incredibly high, Dorian was a rather water-heavy storm, and then we also had, of course, the king tide risk coming up. It seemed like it could have been one of the the worst case scenarios we might see for our water management district. Are future hurricanes in this season projected to potentially be as bad, or is this kind of the worst we could have gotten?
There's no really way to tell the future, but I will say at this stage, we are more prepared than ever to be able to handle anything coming off the Atlantic. I mean, so the way Dorian responded, the length of time it took to get here, the agility that we demonstrated as it was going left one way, it was going right the next way. We kept maneuvering assets, we kept talking, we kept communicating. The state, local governments, the water management district, everybody was in it together, and we moved very, very quickly to our plans to adjust. So what I would say is we're about as prepared as we can be.
What water level would Lake Okeechobee have to be to spur a breach?
I get that question an awful lot, and I do not go to water level because the reality is it becomes very, very challenging when you factor in the direction of the wind, the intensity of the wind, and how that actually makes an impact. So, you know, we are very cautious about identifying if this water level you're okay, and if 2 inches higher you're not okay. To me, that's dangerous because that doesn't apply all the factors that we would know. So what I would say is, you know, at this point, we're at 14 foot or just shy of 14 foot on the lake. Right now, with the management that we've got with water coming off and our current projections with water going forward, for the next month, there is no change to our risk assessment if Dorian were to return in its worst state.
And where are the most vulnerable sections of the dike located?
So we talked about Lakeport. There's a couple of structures right there on the western side of the lake. Those are the most vulnerable when you factor in a direct impact. Now, again, it all becomes dependent on where the wind is coming from, what direction, and kind of all that timing. But those are the areas that we are watching most closely and that we saw Dorian impact most.
And where the winds are blowing and the water level, is that what makes it the most vulnerable part?
Yes, and just the stage of construction it's in right now. It's currently in construction, and it would be, you know, we were looking at a direct the full force of the hurricane on that structure at a water level where we would have expected a lot of rain ahead of time, and we build in some of those contingencies.
And how confident would you say that you are in the sustainability of the dike if we had like a Category 4 or Category 5 storm?
So the dike is getting better every day. We are under construction with more cutoff wall. Over the past 2 years since Irma, we've replaced a few culverts, especially in the south. So every day of construction is a better day for the dike. Fully confident in our ability to complete it by 2022. And as I said, we're getting better every day.
Any other questions? Any closing thoughts from either of you?
Drew? Go ahead.
No. I just want to thank you, Colonel Kelly, for the cooperative relationship we have and the fact that our water managers can work together to move water where it needs to be. And maybe throughout the rest of this wet season, we can avoid these harmful discharges by this cooperative relationship. So I really appreciate it. And by the way, it's cubic feet per second.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.